Welcome back to The Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we are doing something that feels a little bit like checking the engine light while the car is moving at 100 miles an hour.
Right. That's a great way to put it.
We are trying to build a map of the world we are living in right now in February 2026.
And it is a fascinating, if slightly disorienting landscape to be traversing. I think disorienting is the word of the year so far.
Disorienting is definitely the right word. You know, I was scrolling through my feed this morning, and I know we all do this. Doom scrolling is a timeless tradition, even in 2026. But I had this moment of pure cognitive dissonance. It felt like my brain was being pulled in 3 different directions at once.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What was on the menu?
Okay, so first, right at the top, I'm watching this hyper-chaotic, nonsensical meme. I think it was a remix of a soundbite from a show that doesn't even exist.
Right.
It was aimed squarely at Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
It was loud, flashing colors, total sensory overload. And then the very next swipe, literally 1 second later, is this incredibly cozy, slow-living video.
The polar opposite.
Exactly. It's a woman knitting a sweater in a cabin in the woods. Silence. A fire crackling. It was so quiet, I actually checked my phone's volume.
The whiplash effect. That's a term I'm hearing a lot.
Totally. And then the third thing, this is what really got me, is an influencer recommending a specific brand of oat milk that apparently helps with focus. But the influencer, I stared at the screen for a solid minute, and I'm still not entirely sure if they were a human being or a render.
And that right there is the quintessential 2026 experience. You've just described it perfectly. You have the chaos, the desperate need for comfort, and the creeping suspicion that the person selling you the comfort isn't real.
It felt chaotic, but also strangely tailored. Like the chaos was curated just for me. The cozy was curated just for me. And the maybe not real person was definitely curated just for me.
That is the paradox.
So the question we are tackling today is massive. How is this digital world actually structured? Are we just dots on a graph? And who or what is deciding which communities we belong to?
It's the core question of our time. It's about agency, really. And to answer it, we've brought together a stack of sources that might seem totally unrelated at first glance, but I promise you, they fit together like a puzzle.
Okay, lay them out for us.
So first, we have a foundational study on complex network science from Lanzacanetti, Fortunato, and Cortez.
That's the heavy math part, the architecture.
It is, but it explains the shape of our social circles in a way that's surprisingly intuitive. Then we have a technical paper on a new recommendation system called LLM I2I.
And that's the engine.
That's the engine driving those feeds. It explains how the content finds you.
The part that decides if I see the meme or the knitting.
Correct. And then to see how this all plays out in the real world, the culture. We have the 2026 trend reports from Hootsuite and Creator IQ, plus a fascinating look at AI micro-influencers.
Okay, so the culture and the economy. What people are making and how they're selling it.
Exactly. And finally, we have some really innovative work from the Reynolds Journalism Institute fellows on how journalism is trying to fight back against this tide, or at least make sense of it.
So we have the map, the engine, the culture, the economy, and the resistance.
That is a perfect way to frame it. I like that, the resistance.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start with the structure, the map, because I think we tend to imagine the internet or even society as just this flat list of people, like a phone book or a giant crowd in a stadium.
Right, and that's a very natural way to visualize it, but it's a completely wrong from a mathematical perspective. If you look at the paper by Lanzacanetti and his colleagues, they describe complex networks, which could be the internet, or a biological system, or a social group, as having a mesoscopic level of organization.
Mesoscopic, that's a new word for me. I know microscopic, that's the atoms.
Yeah.
And I know macroscopic, that's the whole universe. What is mesoscopic?
It sits right in the middle. It's not about the individual node like you or me, and it's not about the entire network as a whole. The mesoscopic level is where the magic happens. It's the communities, the groups, the clusters.
Okay, so it's the cliques, the squads, my book club, my fantasy football league.
Exactly. But here is where it gets really interesting and where the math starts to reflect our actual messy lives. The paper identifies 2 critical features of these communities that define our reality. The first one is pretty straightforward: hierarchy.
Hierarchy, like a pyramid.
Sort of. Think of it more like Russian dolls. Communities are nested inside other communities.
Hey, walk me through that. Give me an example.
So you are in a podcast host group. That is a small, tight circle. But that group sits inside a larger media professionals group.
Right.
Which then sits inside an even larger communications industry group, which sits inside People with microphones.
Which sits inside people who like the sound of their own voice.
Precisely. Small groups build larger ones. That's intuitive. We understand hierarchy. But the second feature is the one that really messes with the traditional way we think about networks. It's overlap.
Overlap.
Yes. In traditional clustering, the old way of doing data science, you belong to box A or box B. You are either a sports fan or a knitter. The algorithm forces a choice.
But that's not how people work. I can be both. I can be a sports fan who knits.
Exactly. And this paper was one of the first to really crack how to model that mathematically. In reality, nodes people share membership across multiple groups. You are in a family cluster, a work cluster, and a hobby cluster simultaneously.
So I'm the bridge between those worlds. I'm the person who connects the knitting group to the football group.
You are the overlap. You're the human Venn diagram. And those overlaps are what make a network robust and, interesting.
That makes total sense intuitively. I'm not just one thing. I'm a collection of interests. But this paper is claiming they found a way to mathematically detect those overlaps. Because that sounds incredibly difficult for a computer to figure out just by looking at connections.
It is notoriously difficult. It's one of the hardest problems in network science. For a long time, algorithms could only find non-overlapping communities. It was a huge limitation. But this team developed a method using something called a fitness function.
A fitness function. This sounds like we're at the gym. Are we maximizing our games here?
In a way, yes, but a different kind of fitness. I want you to imagine a mountain climber standing in a thick fog. They can't see the summit, but they know they want to go up.
Okay, I'm the climber. I'm in the fog. I can only see a few feet in front of me.
Exactly. The peak you are looking for is the highest point of community strength. The algorithm acts like that climber. It starts at a random node, say, you, and it looks at your immediate neighbors, the people you are directly connected to.
My friends.
Right. And it asks a specific mathematical question for each friend. If I include this neighbor in our little group, does the group's fitness go up?
So it's testing the waters. What defines fitness in a social network? What's the formula?
It's essentially a ratio. The paper gets deep into the math, but it boils down to this. It's the number of links inside the group versus the number of links leaving the group.
So it wants a clique where everyone knows everyone and nobody is talking to outsiders.
Not necessarily nobody, but it wants the internal connections to be much, much stronger and more numerous than the external ones. It's optimizing for a tight-knit cluster, a group that is, more focused on itself than on the outside world.
It's like planning a dinner party.
Go on.
You invite friends who know each other, and the vibe is great, the conversation flows, the fitness is high. But the moment you invite that one random person from work who knows nobody...
The vibe shifts, the density drops. Suddenly you have to do introductions, explain in-jokes, the fitness of the party goes down.
Right. And the algorithm detects that drop and says, stop. That person is outside the boundary of this particular community.
That is a perfect analogy. It keeps expanding, adding one friend at a time until adding one more person would dilute the group's fitness too much. And at that point, it has found the natural community for that starting node.
And because they do it for every single node in the network, they can see where the groups overlap.
Exactly. They run the climber up the hill from every single point in the valley, and they see that you were the stopping point for the work group, but you were the starting point for the running club group. You are the overlap.
Now, the paper mentions a parameter called alpha, the resolution parameter. I feel like this is important because it changes how the map looks. What is that about?
This is a really clever part of their method. Think of alpha as a zoom lens on a camera, or maybe the focus ring. It lets you control the scale of the communities you're looking for.
So I can choose to look for big communities or small ones.
Precisely. If you set alpha to be very small, the paper says less than 0.5, the algorithm zooms way out. It creates a very fuzzy picture where it starts merging distinct groups together. It sees the whole world as one giant blob.
So if I set alpha to 0.1 on, say, Facebook, the algorithm just says, congratulations, you are part of humanity.
Basically, yes. Which is true, but not very useful for understanding social dynamics or, targeting ads.
Right.
Now, if you set alpha really high, say, greater than 2 fin, it zooms in too far. It becomes hypersensitive to any external link. It sees tiny, fragmented groups, maybe just you and your best friend or a community, or even just you by yourself.
So we're looking for the Goldilocks zone.
Yes, which they found usually sits around alpha equals 1. That's where the most natural, meaningful community structure tends to reveal itself.
And to prove this wasn't just abstract math, they tested this on real-world examples. And the examples are just, honestly, they're delightful. They're what sold me on this whole paper.
They're fantastic. They start with a classic, Zachary's Karate Club.
I feel like every network science student has to study the Karate Club. What's the story there?
It's a famous social network study from the 70s. A university karate club had a dispute between the instructor and the club president. It got so bad the club split in two. The researcher, Wayne Zachary, had mapped out all the friendships between the members before the split.
So he had the before picture.
He did, and it's become the benchmark test for these kinds of algorithms. Can your math predict how the club will split? And this algorithm didn't just correctly predict the main split into two factions.
It did something more.
By tweaking that alpha parameter, it also found a hierarchical subsplit. It found that the two main groups were actually composed of four smaller, even tighter-knit groups. It found a level of social structure that the original researcher hadn't even seen.
Wow, okay, so it's on nuance. But what about something less human?
The dolphins? We have to talk about the dolphins.
We so's dolphins. I love that we are using high-level calculus to study dolphin clicks.
It's incredibly accurate, though. This was a study of a pod of bottlenose dolphins in Doubtful Sound, New Zealand.
A beautiful place, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And the biologist, David Luceau, had observed these dolphins for years. He knew the social dynamics inside and out. He knew who was friends with whom, who avoided whom. He knew that the pod was actually split into two main groups, largely divided by age and gender.
But he only knew that from years of being on a boat, watching them. He had the context. He saw the drama.
Exactly. The algorithm had none of that. It just had the raw data. Dolphin A was seen swimming with Dolphin B. That's it, a list of connections. And yet, just by maximizing that fitness function, the algorithm perfectly identified those two groups.
It found the split without knowing anything about dolphin politics.
Zero context, just the links. But it went further. It identified specific dolphins. One was named Snubnose and another Grin, that acted as bridges between the groups. These dolphins were the overlapping nodes.
Snubnose was the social climber of the dolphin world.
In a way, yes. Snubnose was the overlap. If Snubnose disappeared, the two groups might have lost contact entirely. These overlapping nodes are crucial for information flow, or in the dolphin's case, maybe finding fish or maintaining social stability.
So Snubnose is the influencer of the dolphin world, the key connector.
He's the glue. And then they looked at a very different kind of data set. American college football.
Which I assume is slightly less friendly than the dolphins?
A different kind of aggression, certainly. In this network, the nodes were the college teams, and the links were the games played against each other during a single season.
Okay, so if Alabama played Auburn, there's a line between them.
Exactly. And they fed this network map into the algorithm. And what do you think it found?
I'm guessing it found the conferences. The SEC, the Big Ten, etc.
Perfectly. It perfectly reconstructed the athletic conferences. It figured out the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, just based on the schedule.
Because teams play inside their conference way more than they play outside of it?
Exactly. The internal links are higher. The fitness of the Big Ten as a group creates a natural mathematical cluster.
This is fascinating because it implies that we, humans, dolphins, football teams, we're mathematically predictable. Our social overlaps define us. We aren't just random connections. We are structured, hierarchical, overlapping clusters.
We are knots in a web, and that web has a shape, a detectable, measurable shape.
Okay, so that's the map. We have established that we live in these clusters. But knowing the map isn't enough. In 2026, something is navigating that map for us. We aren't just wandering around finding communities by accident. We are being fed things. We are being steered.
And that steering mechanism is a lot more sophisticated than I think most people realize.
Which brings us to the engine, the recommendation algorithms. And we have a paper here that, honestly, when I read it, I had to put it down and stare at the wall for a minute. It's titled LLM-I2I.
LLM-I2I. Large language model, item to item. It sounds dry, but the concept is wild.
Right. This paper represents a massive shift in how things are recommended to you. It explains why your feed feels the way it does right now.
It really does.
Before we get into the tech, tell me about the problem they're trying to solve. Because I feel like recommendations have gotten weirdly specific lately. It used to be, you watch Batman, here is Superman.
Right, a very direct, obvious connection.
Now it's, you watch Batman, here's a video on how to restore a 1920s gargoyle. And the weird thing is, I do want to watch that. How does it know?
They have gotten incredibly specific, and that's the explicit goal. The problem they are trying to solve is what's called data sparsity and the long tail.
The long tail. That's the idea that there are a few huge hits, like the Super Bowl or Taylor Swift album, and then millions and millions of niche things that very few people see.
Exactly. The paper uses a data set from Amazon's toys and games section, and their findings are stark. They found that nearly 20% of items have fewer than 5 purchases.
20%. That's a huge chunk of inventory that is basically invisible to the algorithm.
It is invisible data, and that is a nightmare for traditional algorithms. Imagine you are a traditional recommendation bot from, say, 2020. You look at item A, this obscure board game from the 70s. It has 0 clicks, 0 purchases.
It's a ghost.
A ghost. Then you look at user BU. You have never seen item A. You've never interacted with it. There is no link between you and the ghost.
So the bot has no clue if I'd like it. It has no signal at all.
Nothing. This is the cold start problem. And it applies to new products, niche creators, everything. So historically, the algorithm just ignores the niche stuff and shows you the popular stuff. It plays it safe. It shows you another Batman movie.
It's boring. And it creates a homogenization of culture, right? The rich get richer, the pop getter get more popular.
Precisely. The long tail stays invisible. But LLM I2I changes the game. It uses generative AI large language models, the same tech behind ChatGPT or Claude, to solve this by, and this is the key part, fabricating data.
Wait, pause. It makes stuff up. It's just lying to itself.
It creates synthetic training data. It's a fascinating, slightly terrifying 3-step process. Step 1 is the generator.
Generator. Sounds very sci-fi.
Think of the generator as the creative AI. It's the wild artist, the brainstormer. It's an LLM that looks at your history, say, you bought a chess set, a sci-fi novel, and that gargoyle restoration video.
My actual viewing history, yes.
It takes that real data and then it hallucinates or synthesizes, to use their term, a list of other things you might buy or watch.
Even if I've never seen them. Even if no one's ever bought them.
Especially then. And crucially, they tweak the math with something called a long-tail loss function. They basically force the AI to pay extra attention to those long-tail items. They punish it for suggesting popular things and reward it for digging up obscure stuff.
So it's brainstorming. It's going, hey, this user likes chess, which is strategic, and sci-fi, which is speculative.
Yeah.
Maybe they like this obscure 1970s strategy game about space colonization that only has 2 sales.
Exactly. It connects the semantic dots, the meaning of the items. Space plus strategy equals a potential purchase. But as we know, AI hallucinations can be wild.
Right. It can go off the rails.
They might suggest you buy a toaster because you like chess, because they both can sit on tables, or something equally nonsensical.
Yeah.
Brainstorming produces a lot of bad ideas.
So that's where the filter comes in. You need a quality control step.
That's step 2. The discriminator.
The critic.
The critic. The editor. This is a second separate LLM. It takes the big, messy list that the generator made, and it reviews each suggestion one by one. Its prompt is literally something like, given this user's history, determine whether the user is likely to purchase this target new item. Answer yes or no.
So one AI is just generating ideas, and the other AI's entire job is to shoot them down.
It's judging its colleagues' work, and it only keeps the high-confidence yes predictions. It filters out all the noise, all the toaster suggestions. What you're left with is a smaller, much higher quality list of synthetic interactions. Fake data that looks real.
And then what? Where does that fake data go?
That's step 3 fusion. They take this high-quality fake data, mix it with your real data, and use that combined data set to train the actual recommendation engine that runs on the website, a much faster, lighter model, like an item-to-item or swing model.
I want to make sure I really get this. The algorithm is generating its own training data. It's simulating my behavior to teach itself what I might like, so it can show me things nobody else is buying, but that it thinks are perfect for me.
That is exactly it. It is bridging the gaps in the network map we talked about in section 1, where there are no links between you and that obscure gargoyle restoration community. The AI imagines a link, stress tests it with the discriminator, and if it looks real, it treats it as fact for training purposes.
And does this actually work, or does it just confuse the system with a bunch of fake signal?
Oh, it works. It works terrifyingly well. They tested this on AliExpress, the massive global e-commerce platform.
So not a lab experiment. Real money, real shoppers.
Real stakes. They saw a 1.22% increase in gross merchandise value, or GMV.
Okay, 1.22% sounds small to a layperson. Why is that a big deal?
On a platform like AliExpress, which does hundreds of billions of dollars in sales a year, 1.22% is, well, it's a staggering amount of money. It's billions of dollars. But from a technical perspective, the more important number is the 6.02% increase in recall number.
Recall number, what's that?
That basically means it's better at finding relevant items. It's a measure of how good the system is at digging up the right obscure thing for the right person from that long tail. It's not just showing more stuff, it's showing more of the right stuff.
So when I said earlier that the chaos in my feed felt curated, it's because the AI is literally simulating my behavior to predict my niche interests before I even know I have them.
It is filling the empty space on the map with predictions. It's ensuring that you find your way to that knitting in a cabin community, even if you've never picked up a needle in your life, because it saw a pattern in your other behaviors that suggested you might be ready for it.
That is slightly unsettling, but also explains so much about February 2026. So we have the overlapping communities, the map, and we have this AI engine hunting for our niche interests, the vehicle. What does it actually look like when we open our phones? Let's talk about the culture.
Okay, so now we turn to the Hootsuite Social Media Trends 2026 report. And the headline here perfectly matches our network theory. They talk about the side quest identity.
Side quest. I love that term. It implies the main mission is what? Just surviving, paying the bills?
Maybe. But the side quest concept fits the overlap theory from the Lanzacanetti paper perfectly. Hootsuite points out that our identities are fragmented across different apps. We aren't one single person online anymore, if we ever were.
Right. You might be a professional thought leader on LinkedIn.
Posting about synergy and Q1 goals and leveraging paradigms.
And then 5 minutes later, you're a chaotic meme poster on TikTok.
And then an hour later, you're a thoughtful, long-form essayist on Substack. We are living in these different community overlaps simultaneously. We're our work self, our hobby self, our family self, and we code switch between them instantly.
And the vibe on these platforms is shifting dramatically. The report mentions chaos culture versus the cozy aesthetic. This is the tension I felt this morning.
It is the defining tension of the year. And it's largely generational, though not entirely. Gen Alpha, the youngest generation, the kids of millennials, is driving chaos culture.
Describe chaos culture for someone who hasn't seen it. How is it different from, say, millennial cringe or Gen Z irony?
It's post-irony. It's nonsensical. It's absurdity as a default state. It's loud, distorted audio clips, jarring cuts, visuals that look like they've been screenshotted 1,000 times. The memes don't have a punchline, just a vibe.
It's the digital equivalent of screaming into a pillow, a reaction to information overload.
Exactly. If the world is loud and makes no sense, make louder noise that makes even less sense. It's a coping mechanism. But then you have the powerful counter-trend, the cozy aesthetic.
That's the video of the person knitting I saw.
Right. It's about frugal optimism, slow living, domesticity. Think gardening, baking bread, reading a book by a fire. Hootsuite notes that the vast majority of Gen Z actually wants to spend less time on their devices. They're burned out.
So they're craving meaningful, calm content, not addiction. They want cozy because the chaos is exhausting.
We all are, to some extent. We're toggling between these two extremes. We want the jolt of the chaos, then we need the refuge of the cozy.
And sitting right in the middle of that is this new format they mentioned, microdrama.
It's huge, and it's a big business. Deloitte predicts microdramas will bring in $7.8 billion in revenue this year alone.
$7.8 billion. What exactly is a microdrama? Is it a movie? A TV show?
Think of a soap opera, but it's shot vertically for your phone, it's scripted, and it's delivered in 60 or 90-second chunks. High production value, but built for the scroll.
And it ends on a cliffhanger every time, I'm guessing.
Every single time. It's a TV show that has been perfectly engineered for the dopamine loop of social media.
Give me a plot. What are we watching in these things?
It's classic melodrama, just accelerated. The CEO's secret nanny. My billionaire roommate is a vampire. High stakes, instant betrayal, immediate resolution, and then boom, on to the next episode. It captures that side quest energy. You dip in for 3 minutes of high drama, then you leave and go back to the chaos or the cozy.
It's the ultimate sticky content. It's designed to keep you on the app. But there's a pushback to all this engineered content, right? The report mentions AI fatigue.
A massive pushback. This is maybe the most interesting finding. Hootsuite found that nearly one-third of consumers are actively less likely to choose a brand if they know it uses AI in its ads.
Which is so ironic considering the algorithms that are showing them the ads are probably the most advanced AI on the planet.
That's the paradox. We love the result of AI curation, which is finding the perfect weird thing for us. But we hate the aesthetic of AI content, which often feels slick, soulless, and fake. We want the recommendation to be perfect, but we want the content itself to be human.
So how are brands responding to this? The report says they're intentionally leaving in typos.
Yes, it's wild. Typos, stutters in a voiceover, bad lighting in a video, a shaky camera. Imperfection is the new signal for human.
That is hilarious. It's like a new form of authenticity theater.
It's totally strategic. If an ad is too polished, if the copy is too perfect, our brains in 2026 immediately flag it as probably written by an LLM. But if I stumble over my words or if the camera shakes a little, you know I'm biological. It's a tell.
Authenticity is just being bad at talking. I could do that. I'm finally trendy.
It's a valuable skill in 2026. We are optimizing for flaws because flaws prove we aren't the generator from the LLM I2I paper.
So brands are trying to be human. But this brings us to the influencer economy. Because if people want humans, but AI is cheaper and more efficient, what happens? Where did the money go?
This is the era of efficacy, according to the Creator IQ report. The fun and games of just brand awareness are over. It's all about ROI, return on investment.
Show me the money.
Exactly. Investment is booming. The report says brands are spending nearly $3 million on average annually, with enterprise giants spending up to $8.1 million. But they want to see sales. The marketing funnel isn't a straight line anymore, and they need to justify that spend. And this demand for ROI versus the need for content has birthed something very, very strange.
Beanbot.
Beanbot. This comes from the Complete Studios report on AI micro-influencers, and it is the perfect case study.
Please tell the listeners about Beanbot. I am obsessed with this story.
So, Latlove is a fictional cafe chain in the report, a stand-in for a real brand. They needed an influencer strategy. But instead of hiring a human influencer who might be expensive or hard to manage or cause a scandal, they created Beanbot.
An AI barista. A completely synthetic person.
A photorealistic AI-generated persona. Beanbot has a backstory. She's a barista, she lives in a cool apartment, she has a cat, she has a personality, cheerful, slightly clumsy, loves foam art. She posts about seasonal drinks, chats with customers in the comments.
And people follow this, knowing it's fake.
In 6 weeks, Beanbot got 35,000 followers.
Wow. That's faster growth than most humans.
But here is the ROI part, the efficacy part. The report states that Beanbot's campaign drove a 12% uptick in foot traffic to the physical cafes.
People went to the store because the cartoon barista told them to.
Yes. And the cost. 40% lower than a human-led campaign.
Of course it's lower. Beanbot doesn't need a flight to Tulum for a photo shoot. Beanbot doesn't get the flu. Beanbot doesn't have a problematic tweet from 2012's Surface.
Beanbot is available 24/7. She can reply to every single comment instantly in any language. This is the rise of the AI micro-influencer. They target those specific overlapping niche communities we talked about, the long tail of interests, without the overhead of a human being.
It connects back perfectly to the LLM I2I paper. The algorithm finds the niche community, like latte art lovers in Portland. The AI creator, Beanbot, makes the content for that exact community. It's a closed loop.
It is. But didn't we just say that people hate AI ads? How does this work?
We did. That's the contradiction.
That's the ethical checkpoint. The report emphasizes that for this to work, you must disclose that it is AI. Beanbot's bio says, your favorite virtual barista. If Latlove pretended she was a real human, people would revolt. But as a mascot, a character, people accept it.
It's like following Tony the Tiger, but he talks back in the comments and has anxiety about spilling the milk.
Precisely. It's relatable fiction. But there is a human response to this. While some brands are building bots, others are going in the complete opposite direction. They're turning to their own employees.
Employee advocacy. This feels like the counter move.
It's the ultimate cozy strategy to Beanbot's chaos. Hootsuite and Creator IQ both highlight this. Study after study shows people trust employees more than CEOs and, increasingly, more than professional influencers.
Because the employee has skin in the game. If the actual barista at the store tells me the coffee is good, I believe them. They are standing there smelling the beans. They have credibility.
Exactly. So we're seeing this bifurcation in marketing. On one side, you have the AI bots like Beanbot for efficient, high-frequency, always-on content. On the other side, you have real employees for the deep trust and authenticity that only a human can provide.
It's a fascinating split. We're automating the surface-level engagement and desperately trying to humanize the core relationships.
That's a beautiful way to put it. We use the bots to say hello, and the humans to say trust me.
So we've covered the tech, the culture, the marketing, the map, the engine, the economy. But there is one group that has to make sense of all this for the public: the journalists. How are the truth tellers handling this chaos?
It's a fight. It feels like a survival struggle. And the Reynolds Journalism Institute, the RJI Fellows for 2024-2025, have been developing tools not just to report the news, but to survive this new environment.
I looked at this list of projects, and it's really about adaptation. It's not just write better articles. It's more fundamental than that.
It is about systemic adaptation. Take Andy Lee Roth's project. It's focused on algorithmic literacy.
Which is what we are doing right now, basically, trying to understand these systems.
Exactly. But he's pushing for journalists to report on the algorithms themselves. Accountability reporting, not just what happened in the election, but why did the algorithm on this platform show this specific video to this specific demographic a million times?
It's reporting on the medium itself, not just the message.
Yes. And also how to survive algorithmic gatekeeping.
Shadow banning. Demonetization.
All of it. If you're a journalist reporting on controversial topics, the platform's algorithm might hide your content because it deems it unsafe or low fitness for the community it wants to build. Journalists need to understand how to navigate that just to get the news out to the public.
Then there's the issue of data. We're drowning in it, but it's often presented in ways that are impossible to understand.
And that's where Ora Walmer's project comes in. It's called data sonification.
Making data audible. This one I really want to hear about. This sounds amazing.
The example given is beautiful. A news story on rising temperatures in New Orleans. Usually that's a line graph. Red line goes up, your eyes glaze over. It's boring.
Right. It lacks impact.
Instead, they worked with a local NPR station to broadcast the data using a brass band.
You're kidding. A brass band. How does that work?
Imagine this. You're listening to the radio. The low notes, the tuba, the bass drum, represent the historical average temperatures from, say, the 1950s. A steady, predictable rhythm. But as the story moves forward in time and the heat rises, the trumpets come in.
Higher notes for higher temperatures?
Exactly. Higher, screechier, more frantic. The rhythm gets faster, more chaotic. You don't just see the data, you hear the heat wave, you feel the urgency in your chest as the music gets discordant and intense when the data spikes in recent years.
That is so New Orleans. But it's also brilliant from a communication standpoint.
It is. It's accessible to the visually impaired, it's emotionally resonant, and it cuts through the chaos culture we were talking about. It uses art to convey the math.
I love that. It connects back to the cozy trend, too. It feels human. It feels crafted by people, not a machine.
It does. And then you have the practical survival tools. Catherine Reynolds Lewis created a freelance quick start guide. Because in this gig economy, the side quest economy, more journalists are on their own. They need to be entrepreneurs, not just writers.
Right. They need to build a business to support the journalism.
And finally, there's gamification. The project is called Dig In There.
This sounds like it's borrowing from the enemy.
A little bit. It's from Zoe Cernatany and Dana Amy here. We know attention is the scarcest resource online. They are using gamification, interactive experiences, quizzes, rewards to encourage readers to actually engage with a long article or investigation.
So I read the whole article. I get a reward. A badge. A point.
Essentially, it's fighting the TLDR too long, didn't read culture with the tools of the gaming industry. Dig In There makes consuming the news an active quest, not a passive scroll.
So journalism is borrowing from the very systems that are challenging it. Gamification, sonification, algorithmic literacy.
They have to. To stay relevant in a network of overlapping AI-driven communities, you have to speak the language of the network. You have to play the game to report on the game.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground. My brain is fully mesoscopic right now. Let's try to synthesize this. Let's zoom out and look at the big picture we've painted.
If we zoom out, if we adjust our alpha parameter to see the whole system, here is what we see. It all starts with the structure.
We are sorted into communities.
Yes. Mathematically definable, overlapping communities. The Lancet-Canetti paper proves we are clustered. We are the knots in the net. That's the fundamental map of society.
And an engine is watching us navigate that map.
The LLM I2I engine,
Yeah.
it is taking our sparse data, using generative AI to hallucinate what else we might like, training itself on that hallucination, and then feeding us niche content to pull us deeper into those clusters.
Which makes us fragment further into our identity.
Yes, we become side quest people. We split our attention between chaos mode and cozy mode to cope with the stimulation. We retreat into our niches because they feel safe and known.
And the market responds to those fragments.
Brands send in the clones, the AI micro-influencers like Beanbot, to target those fragments with maximum efficiency. Or they deploy their real employees to try and claw back some of that human trust.
And all the while, journalists are scrambling to decode the algorithms and turn the data into music just to get us to listen to the truth.
That is the ecosystem of February 2026. It is a loop, a powerful, self-reinforcing feedback loop.
It's a lot when you lay it all out like that.
It is a feedback loop, and the speed of that loop is accelerating.
And that leads me to my final thought. And I want to get your take on this because it's the thing that's been nagging at me through this whole conversation.
Let's hear it.
We talked about the LLM-I2I paper. The AI generates synthetic behaviors, fake purchases, fake clicks to train itself.
Yes, the generator creating data for the discriminator.
And we talked about Beanbot, an AI influencer generating synthetic posts and having synthetic conversations with real people.
Yes, synthetic culture.
So if the algorithms are training on synthetic data to learn what humans want, and brands are using synthetic avatars to interact with those humans, and we, the humans, are reacting by fragmenting our identities in response to the synthetic world.
Go on, I see where you're headed.
At what point does the community structure of the internet stop representing human connection? At what point is it just a feedback loop of machines talking to machines about what they think we want, and we are just watching?
That is the ultimate provocation. That's the billion-dollar question. If the fitness function of the network starts optimizing for AI-generated engagement rather than genuine human connection, we might lose the overlap that makes us real. We become the outliers in our own network. We become the noise that the discriminator eventually learns to filter out.
That is a terrifying thought. So here's my call to action for you, the listener. The next time you see a perfect influencer or a recommendation that feels startlingly spot on, ask yourself a question.
Ask yourself, which overlap of my identity triggered this? What part of my personal map led me here?
And more importantly, is the entity on the other side even real? Or am I just a data point in a machine's dream about itself?
A chilling but necessary question. Stay curious. Check your sources.
Thank you for diving deep with us. We'll see you in the next overlap.
Take care.